Hello and welcome to the SuperShow podcast, a podcast about gaming that has somehow lasted for, what is it now, Jamie? 94 fucking episodes?
Somehow. Almost 2 years, can you believe it?
Jesus, been way too long. I'm feeling the retirement, you know?
Exactly. When can I start claiming a pension? Like, how does that work out with this?
I looked it up the other day. It's 68 for me, so...
Wow, how
time.
many, 2, 3 years?
He's so funny, everybody. He's a Jamie. How are you doing today, fella?
I'm not doing too bad. I'm glad I've got one age-related joke in there, and now I just need to get a height-related joke at some point in the next 2 hours, and I filled the full quota.
Wow. Yeah.
So you can get a fat one back. It's fine. Like, this is a two-way street.
I respect you enough, you know?
Really?
Yeah. Clearly, I don't garner the respect back, but that's fine.
You're getting there. Maybe episode 194. Like, give it another 2 years.
I might be dead by then, so...
This is true, again, because, as we said earlier, you are, in fact, 65 years old. Yes, everyone laugh.
Everyone laugh. You know who's not laughing?
No, remind me. I don't know anyone else other than you.
Alex
Everyone else
Jones.
other than you, no, he's dead to me. Don't know. Never heard of the guy.
Yeah, Alex Jones, literally dead. He jumped in it. And
he did... Oh, God. Now, you just put a horrible image in my head of the first podcast we have to do when someone does actually die. Like, we can't... Can we do... Maybe we shouldn't have done the death jokes.
Yeah, ease up on the death jokes. No, Alex Jones is busy because he did jump in it, but something else. So he just couldn't be here today. Back next week, I'm sure. You know, all with bells and whistles on, his little nipples.
Yes, that's exactly how it works. You go 1 week out, and all of a sudden, you start acquiring nipple accoutrement. That's just the rule of the Super Show.
Nipple accoutrement. But yes, hey, welcome to the gaming podcast that's these days being less and less about gaming. But we've got a bumper gaming edition. This is, you know, when like podcasts or magazines or TV shows, they're like, oh, the Shark Week edition, because they've just shifted their focus to something. This is like, this episode is the Super Show's gaming edition. Exactly. We've got gaming news, fella.
If this episode of the Super Show was a Blu-ray, it would come packaged in with a 4K Blu-ray, a DVD, and the code for Ultraviolet all in one.
Ultraviolet. Yeah. Exactly.
Believe it or not. Oh, and also some like random postcards with art from the podcast that you're never going to use, but you're like, what's the relevance of these postcards? Who am I going to send them to?
And a double-sided poster. Almost a dildo there, but poster.
Yeah. Maybe that too, though. Like, I'm thinking outside the box.
Depends on the edition, right?
Yeah, but if people paid enough, like...
the Super Show Peg edition.
Yeah, like, you know how some people have Patreon tiers that get merch? What if our merch was just a dildo?
I mean...
with
Jonesy's face.
Oh, I'm glad you said Jonesy's face, because you can do other kinds of, like... There's a moulding process, Chris. I don't know if you've looked into it. If you've ever had a gum shield before, then you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I have had a gum shield before.
There you go.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Well, God, it kind of floored me on that one. But look, we got lots to talk about today because... I don't know. It's just been like... It felt like the last couple of weeks, or even more than a couple of weeks, the handful of weeks have just been like... Yeah, it's a slow news week. There's one or two news articles. We'll scrounge for some news items. This week is fucking balls to the wall. You know, we're talking about fucking the return of an iconic Ubisoft mascot, potentially. Some interesting Warner Brothers fandom news. Cyberpunk still knocking around there. And, hey, Sony have made a movie that might interest us gamers. But first, Jamie, I thought we could jump in it with Elden Ring. Okay? The game that the game I'm probably most looking forward to in the short to midterm.
Right? Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, unfortunately, it was short term, and now it's gone to midterm because they've delayed it by a month.
Yeah, but it could be worse, right? It could be worse than a month.
It could be worse than a month. Although, the last time a game was delayed by, a handful of weeks was Battlefield, and you guys didn't have a very positive reception to that one.
No, that didn't work out too well, and EA, in fact, literally today at the time of recording, put out a massive post like, "Here's all the things we learnt from the beta." And I remember seeing that link being passed around and thinking, no matter how much you learnt, you probably didn't learn quite enough for me to buy this video game.
Oh wow!
And I didn't click on it.
Wow. Okay.
Funnily enough, I can't see From Software making a "here's what we did in the 1 month delay period" article. They don't seem like they talk about things that openly, but there we go.
Nah, it's a very Japanese way of working, isn't it? It's just kind of keep your mouth shut. You just be like, yeah, it's delayed. Fuck off.
Yeah,
look
exactly.
what's happening with like Metroid Prime 4. It's like, yeah, you know, we worked in it, we had a game, and then we scrapped it. So fuck off.
Exactly. Yeah. Leave us alone. You'll see it. You'll see it when it's ready. If then.
If then, yeah. But yeah, I mean, a month isn't too bad. We have seen gameplay from it. We do know that influencers, not us, so clearly not the broadest definition of the term, but they were treated to, I think it was like a 16-minute playthrough, which they could watch but not actually play. And then, of course, like, when was it? Like last week, there was that leak of like 40 seconds of gameplay on an Xbox One, I believe.
Yes, I believe that's right. Which I saw on YouTube and presumed it would get taken down immediately, only for it to then stay on YouTube, I think, right up to the point of recording.
I watched it today. Categorically, for a fact, I watched it today on YouTube.
Yeah.
So, but it did look kind of janky. But then again, it's almost saying, like, where did this come from? At what point in the process did this come out? And, okay, if it's running on an Xbox One, like, okay,
yeah,
probably is going to be rough around the edges.
Right, for sure. I mean, if you believe the quote-unquote insiders, then performance and visuals on the previous gen consoles were one of the reasons that Elden Ring was starting to take a long time to begin with. Yeah. So it's inevitable that if that leak was actually the game running on a base Xbox One, we're probably looking at the worst performing and worst in terms of visuals version of that game, which is somewhat comforting, right? When the only way is up.
Yeah, exactly. A weird way of looking at it, but sure. I'm going to take my... I'm just going to decapitate Alex Jones, hollow out his head,
gotcha,
and then use it as the Alex Jones conspiracy hat, if you'll allow me. All right?
Fuck tinfoil. Tinfoil's to 1984.
Jonesy can wear the tinfoil hat on his carved out face.
Yeah,
like Leatherface. You just kind of like put it on,
Big time.
Halloween reference. Well, not... like Halloween, the time, like horror movie reference. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that video leaked, and then a couple of days later it was like, oh, by the way, it's delayed by a month, and a part of me does kind of think that there might be a correlation there.
Maybe, and that kind of stuff does happen. And again, like, I don't know why this has lasted as long as it has on YouTube. But then again, it's almost like a weird sort of like reverse Streisand effect, right? Which is that if that video had gone live on YouTube, been there for 4 hours, and then everyone that clicked on that link after that point got a little message saying like, this video has been removed after a copyright strike from Bandai Namco, everyone would be like, oh, that's Elden Ring.
Yeah.
And now it's still there. Everyone's like, well, what if this was like a weird Dark Souls 3 mod or something like that? Which, don't get me wrong.
Anything's possible. Like,
anything's possible. And on that note, yes, like coincidental leaks and intentional leaks from publishers or developers or wherever it comes from, a marketing department, they are possible and they probably have happened before. I don't know if this is one of them. It doesn't seem like a super From Software thing.
Hold on. Are you kind of like hinting at the fact that they're doing a little bit of reverse psychology there, where they knew they had to delay it? So then what they did is they released a shitty video, leaked it out there, and it's like, oh, look, it obviously needs more work, fellas. I mean, what do you want? Do you want us to release a shitty game? No, we're going to delay it by a month.
Maybe. Honestly, I think it's been such a confusing year with regards to leaks and rumours and delays and this, that, and the other, that I honestly don't even know how to speculate about this stuff anymore, because it just feels like anything's possible. All I know is that, as we kind of hinted at earlier, From Software are kind of a usually pretty straight-laced bunch of people, They don't... I don't know. I think it would be very elaborate for them to have done all of this stuff intentionally. Whether it's leaking a little bit of gameplay, intentionally planting the seed that this is running on previous gen hardware so that people start dreaming about what the next gen versions or even the PC port could look like, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of layers to this. This is the onion.
Yeah, it is the onion, or the parfait.
Right.
But is there maybe a lesson to be learned from Cyberpunk? Because Cyberpunk were like, oh yeah, before the game came out, do you remember? They were like, oh, here's the gameplay, and yeah, it's running on a PlayStation 4.
Yes.
And you were like,
Although, but then you get into the weird thing of like again, I didn't think this would be the shitting on CD Projekt Red episode of the podcast again, but the night is young, literally. But like the problem that they had, right, was that when they showed it running on a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One, they were almost proud of it. And it was like, hey, here's this game running on a PS4 and Xbox One. And like you look back on it and like, I don't know which PS4s they were using, but it wasn't the ones that we bought on store shelves. Like, what the fuck?
no, but it's also like, oh yeah, it was running that vertical slice where literally there's only 2 buildings that they've loaded into the fucking RAM.
They played that game and like, that's the 10 seconds that runs at 30. Use that. It's like, this is just him walking through an interior, but use it.
Yeah. No, but what I'm saying is like maybe they're taking the lesson and they're trying to scare people away from like the base PS4, Xbox One experience. Then don't play it like this. It's gonna be like this. But do you want to play it like that? If you want to play it like that, it's there. We're not lying, you know.
But then again, like, don't hate me as a From Software fan, but I think the jank that was present in that 40 seconds wasn't like a generational jank, which is that's a fun thing to say out loud. Generational jank. It was like a From Software jank, you know. It was like hey, these guys make games where like player movement is really strange and animations are very kind of strict and specific, and sometimes that leads to things looking a little bit unfluid, which I guess is just solid, the opposite of fluid, right? Yeah, science.
So you're saying it looked solid, yeah?
Yeah, Chris, I want to remind you, I don't know how the UK education system like works relative to anywhere else in the world, but I was so bad at science that at one point, instead of doing all 3 sciences separately, they just combined them into 2. And that's what I sat at when I was 16. So don't expect me to know what the opposite of fluid is off the top of my head.
Hey man, I stopped taking science like midway through my like multi-year span stream, because there's a point at high school when it's like you need to lock in your subjects for like the next 3 years and then you'll graduate.
Oh,
right?
Sure, yeah.
So I had chosen science. I realized that I was really shit at it, except for vectors, and non-ionic elements. But
oh wow,
there you go.
Practical life knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. It really helped me. So mid-stream of that, I broke the stream, and I just went and did history and picked it up, and I was a year and a half behind. And you know what? I didn't do too badly because history is a dope fucking subject. So there you go.
Yeah.
Boom.
Do you know what? I that sounds like a solid move. I say fair play to you.
Yeah, well, that is what it is. But look, going back to it. So Elden Ring has been delayed February 25th. Okay? Which kind of... Yeah. It's this weird consequence of now January's looking kind of sparse. Right?
It is, right? Like, we were kind of joking about how the first 3 months of next year kind of looked absolutely mental. And now it's kind of just like, well, February looks hot, and everything else still looks solid. I'm looking it up now, so yeah, January is now pretty much just Pokemon Legends and Rainbow Six Extraction. Although... I'll mention it here because I don't think we were necessarily planning on mentioning it elsewhere. The PC port for God of War is coming out in January, so I guess some people look forward to that. But yeah, February by comparison, with key players including Dying Light 2, Horizon Forbidden West, the Destiny 2 paid expansion, Sifu, Saints Row, and now Elden Ring. February is it's hot. February's it's spicy. It is spicy, man. Chris.
What a time to be alive, Jamie. But yeah, side by side with the delay, they also announced that there's going to be a planned beta test next month on PlayStation and Xbox console. So console only, no PC. And you had to register your interest before November 1st to have a chance to take part. I have registered.
Okay.
Jamie, just so you know.
Yes.
I take it you've registered too, right? You're well up for it.
I have not registered, but perhaps I'm torn, basically. I think that I should because it would be cool, but then also how weird would it be if I got in and it was like some super random, but also super exclusive kind of thing? Like, how bummed out would I be if I got in and you, for example, didn't, and I was sat here playing it on my PS5 and just kind of not really enjoying it?
Yeah, and I just kind of... That's the luck of the draw, right?
Yeah, but I guess it's kind of like the question then becomes, if I came on the podcast, the first episode after that beta, and was
Yeah.
like, oh, I got in and I played it, but I'm barely even going to talk about it because I don't like those games, so what's the point? Would that be better than just not talking about it at all? I don't
Yeah,
know.
but I think you. How can I say this? You have more of a respect for our audience to just simply do that. I think you would give a shot at an honest,
Wow.
objective opinion with a little bit of subjectivity thrown in.
You think so highly of me, I appreciate
But
it.
it is kind of a weird one because you talk about like it being kind of exclusive. So obviously, it's not an open beta test; it's very much closed beta test, and there are certain time slots that you'll allocate it.
Oh,
I,
wow.
I,
Okay.
I should have had the graphic in front of me, but it was like I think it was like 2 or 3 or 4 hour time slots, and that was it. So it's like it is kind of like even if I get it, I might not be able to play it because depending on when it comes out, like I just might not be able to log on and download. I
Yeah.
don't know, whatever it may be. It's an interesting one, but I'm still super excited about this game. And if I think about like PlayStation 4, like Dark Souls 3, I think there were some issues with it, but Bloodborne quality, like
Yes.
imminently playable. Same with Sekiro, like fucking my game of the year of that year, whenever it was, which I still haven't finished, but I'm at the end.
But you might.
I very much might, but yeah. So I think they could handle it, but time will tell.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how everything plays out, and obviously you keep your fingers crossed that while I don't think you're necessarily going to get the full, sort of like like the full end result in terms of what From Software can do with next gen hardware, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah,
I don't think that's ever really been their ambition, and I think that, or I hope that From Software fans and Soulsborne fans in general are going to be very, very happy with the end result of all those years of work.
yeah, yeah. And going kind of hand in hand with the From Software stuff, seeing as we're speaking about it, all those rumors, they just keep on swirling, Jamie. This hasn't been put in the podcast document that is in front of us, but Bluepoint rumored to have remastered Bloodborne for the PS5, and
Yes.
and whether it's Bluepoint or someone else to be working on Bloodborne 2 or some form of sequel. It's just like the rumors are getting absolutely insane now, and I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah,
If I'm
I'll be
perfectly honest.
I don't fucking understand either, Chris. Like we said earlier, the last year or so, in terms of rumors and leaks and speculation, it's been completely crazy.
Do you think it's like because obviously all the lockdown and a lot of people are still working remote, even though lockdowns have lifted like largely around the world, but it's still this kind of like bedroom mentality of like, well, I've closed the 50 tabs because I did pleasure myself, and now I'm just sat here in my post ejaculate depression, and I need to kind of think of something to do. So what I'll do is I'll come up with a rumor and just kind of spread it.
Maybe.
Oh, and by the way, I work for Gematsu.
Yeah, exactly right. Here's my Twitter account.
Yeah.
Please let everyone follow me. I don't really know because there's
Like,
that side of things.
Kojima, fucking Bloodborne 2, fucking Silent Hill, like all of that shit. It's just like, where is this coming from?
Bro, and yeah, like I'm not going to bang on about them, but because we mention them every other week as it is, and some of them will get name dropped again later. But it's like you go back 2 years, and I think I made this joke before. It was literally Jason Schreier or bust in terms of rumors or leaks about an upcoming video game that might be years away. He would write some big article. He would usually write about something else and then put the leaks inside that article. Like he'd write about workplace in environmental issues, and then also say like, by the way, the next Assassin's Creed is this game, because that's the way that Jason Schreier's head works apparently. And now it's like there's a whole kind of flock of them again across certain websites, across social media, and it makes sense. I just don't know why it's taken, as you pointed out, I don't know why it's taken like lockdown for all of this to suddenly, for the insider scene to kind of blow up. Because not to get too sidetracked, but I can remember being a kid, a slightly older than a kid, but still a kid. And, in the run-up to games that I was really excited for, a good example being the first Red Dead Redemption, and every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, I would go on Google's News tab, which I don't even know if that's still a thing, and I would type in Red Dead Redemption, because really all it did was it would sort of, it would just take all the news stories or anything that any major website had written about it, and every day I'd try and see, is there anything else? Like, has anyone seen anything or heard anything? And now, there was always that desire around it for certain games, as I saw over a decade ago.
Yeah.
But why now is it for like every game? And why now do subreddits for these things have hundreds of thousands of users?
It's because people don't have anything better to do, Jamie.
Maybe.
I think that's the sad truth of it. They've watched Squid Game. Squid Game's over for them because they've...
I'm still only halfway through.
Fair enough. But you know what I mean? Like, it almost feels like we're on the age of fucking...
Information.
Move on to the next one, you know?
Oh, right, yeah. That's
the fucking Ariana Grande, thank you next kind of bullshit. It's just like, okay, I finished Squid Game. That's like that thing that's done now. And now I'm going to go on Bloodborne 2 Rumours, and that's the thing. And then I'm going to go on Metal Gear Solid Remake, and it's just fucking mental.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
It is surprising, to say the least.
You know what else is surprising, Jamie?
What's that, Chris? Segue me.
The fact that lovely people watch and listen to our podcast.
Very true.
Take the time to leave comments down below on YouTube. So if you're listening, leave a comment down below and you might get comment of the week. Much like Dynasty's Edge, who says, "Hey, fellerinos." I like that, fellerinos.
It's good.
It's almost like ballerinas, but like manly.
And we are very elegant as well, so...
Hell yeah. You should see my point work. But he goes on to say, the best thing named Ricochet is the pro wrestler of the same name. One of the best in the world and horribly underutilized since he went to WWE's main roster. We should make a plan called the Ricochet Initiative to help him get the spotlight he deserves just because of the high-flying, physics-defying beast that he is. That's part one of this comment. We'll go to part two in a second, but I've not heard of Ricochet. I mean, I'm not really actively following WWE, at least not since I was, 14.
I was going to say, since like 1998.
Yeah, I think when I stopped watching, it was still WWF, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
I
remember
Yeah. I was going to say, the ironic thing is that most of the people you probably remember watching in your childhood, if you asked, are they still around? The answer's probably yes. They just might not necessarily be at the WWE anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like Shawn Michaels, Undertaker. There was Razor Ramon was like one of my biggest heroes.
Oh, yeah.
That dude was such a fucking coke fiend. It was great. But yeah, that's obviously talking about the Ricochet Initiative was the code word at the end of the last podcast. So make sure to stick around to the end of this podcast, whether it be 1, 2, 3, 55 hours, who the fuck knows. Just stick to the end and you'll get a code word and you can let us know in the comments down below. And hey, if you have a good one, you'll get it in the comments of the week. But the reason we actually chose this particular one, Jamie, is for this part 2 of the comment. Are you ready for it?
I am.
Are you prepping yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Sit down, Jamie.
I'm already...
Oh, well, that's good. Okay.
I record this podcast standing up, Chris, and I always have done. Not to sort of like...
I always thought you were just on your knees for some reason.
Do you know what? I'm actually low enough to the ground that I could be because my chair is broken. Like, I think that's actually an interesting challenge for any eagle-eyed viewers out there. Go back through the last, 30 episodes
See the chair go
try
down,
and
down,
pinpoint
down.
the episode where my chair broke. And, since then... Because I'm a foot closer to the ground than I used to be. The
so
hydraulics in my chair, if I lift it up, I just go... Like
somebody get this man a chair.
Literally, I've been on the fucking... What are they called? I've been on one of the chair websites every day for the last 2 months, being like, can I afford that?
Well, you know, IKEA make gaming chairs now.
Yeah, but it's you know what? I not to again. I'm going on tangents all the time. I'm sorry, Chris. It's because it's just you and me, and you give me so much energy. I just feel kind of liberated.
Nice, I like it. Cool.
It's basically I just need to. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pay my taxes first, and then see how much money I've got left because I'm a sensible adult.
Always a wise idea. All right, now sensible adult. Part 2 of this comment. And he goes, now to my question, my sirs. Are you guys fans at all of the James Bond series, whether it be the films or the games? If so, have you seen No Time to Die, And would you do a spoiler cast focusing on it, its major twists and turns, and possible or preferred actors to take over the James Bond role? The film is still a hot topic at the moment, and probably will be for a while until people can get back to moaning about the newly hired James Bond actor again. It's a good question. You've seen No Time to Die.
Yeah, I have.
Okay. I haven't. I don't know when I will, because it's just kind of a strange time in the world. I think I want to see June first, because that came out today at time of recording.
Yes.
But anyway, but I have a fair amount to say about James Bond as a series.
Let's get into it.
Especially the most recent James Bond iteration of Daniel Craig. So, I'm going to start off by saying I think Casino Royale is the best James Bond film, even above GoldenEye. I'll fucking say it outright. GoldenEye's second, don't get me wrong.
Okay,
But something about Casino Royale, probably evergreen, but something about it just really kind of fucking, it was perfect. And I really like the kind of grounded take on it, and the fact that, like, the only gadget that was in that fucking movie was his Aston Martin had a fucking defibrillator in the cubbyhole for whatever goddamn reason that was.
Yeah, no, true.
But yeah, and then for me it was like each successive one, which just felt like just getting worse and worse and worse into a territory where a part of James Bond that I've just have grown to completely and thoroughly dislike, and I know that is an unpopular opinion. Look at the fucking banner on the YouTube channel that says, hot takes and trash opinions. So there we go. I'll give it to you. Spectre was terrible. Absolutely goddamn terrible. It's like going back to that Roger Moore era of like cheekiness, sassiness, and all these fucking kooky gadgets and shit, and lasers, and villains that were fucking tweaking their mustaches and shit. And it's just like, come on, like it could have been so good with Spectre and having Spectre behind, like, the author of all of the fucking pain. But it's just like, come on, man, come on. It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Some cool shots, don't get me wrong, and Skyfall. I enjoyed the first half of Skyfall. I didn't like other elements of Skyfall.
Oh, right.
Like the ending of Skyfall when it just kind of turned into fucking Home Alone. I was like, okay,
interesting,
cool,
interesting,
whatever.
Fair
and
enough.
then also the fact that, like, I don't know, Javier Bardem's villain, was it Silver? Just kind of
Raul Silva or something.
Yeah,
like
just kind of really fucking weird the way he was portrayed.
I thought it was
fair
an
enough.
interesting weird.
But you know what really fucking got my goat on that one? You know what grinds my gears, Jamie?
Tell me.
They have, so Silver like hijacks a tube train.
Yeah.
I understand why they did it, okay? But he hijacks a tube train and he fucking crashes it, and there was no one in that tube train.
I don't really remember. I remember the tube train scene because I remember it crashing through almost like a wall.
Yeah.
Into like...
And it goes down like a fucking tunnel or something or whatever it was. And it's
Yeah.
just kind of like, come on. Like, because I think in the couple of the scenes before that, there were people in the fucking tube, but I might be misremembering. But it's just very much a case of like, it was like Inspector. I think it was Inspector when he's in Italy, right? And he's doing the car chase on the streets of Italy, like after he goes to that Spectre meeting or whatever.
Yes, he's escaping the meeting.
The streets of Italy were empty. No cars on the road. And it's just like, you've sucked the realism out of these films by not doing those things.
Yeah,
I mean James Bond, I know what you're going to say.
Quote unquote realism, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like even the aforementioned grounded Casino Royale used a lot of quote unquote realism. You think about all the stuff that happens at an airport compared to what airports are like in real life.
Yeah, but at least it was populated with people. It wasn't like an empty airport.
Including Richard Branson.
Exactly, right? So there you go. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the kind of latest iteration of... Oh, I will say my favorite Bond is Timothy Dalton. So that probably tells you everything you need to know about what I like about James Bond or what I don't like about James Bond.
Kind of, but then again, you're a little bit all over the place. Like, to have your favorite Bond be Dalton, to have kind of enough love for the Brosnan era that GoldenEye's your second favorite, but then to have Casino Royale being your number one, so your introduction to the Craig era kind of like is as good as it gets, but then everything else post Casino Royale you're not hot on pretty much, with the exception of one half of Skyfall.
Yeah.
It is a little bit of a roller coaster.
Hey, that's what you're here for, baby.
I guess so.
I'm, ups and downs with me.
Yeah, Bond's one of those things that I almost don't have any hot takes. Trash opinions, that's not for me to decide, but hot takes, I think my roller coaster is a much more kind of like, it's more of like, the thing, it's not actually a roller coaster, it's just one of those things that goes around the whole park really slowly and you can just sightsee from it. It's one of those.
Yeah, fair enough. A meandering stroll,
yeah. And I think it's because, like, I was, even though, like, a lot of kids, I think, but not just in the UK, but probably around the world nowadays, I was brought up with Bond, in the same way people are kind of brought up with Star Wars and shit like that. I was never brought up, like, with a particularly, like, critical eye. Like, I think the easiest example I can come up with is my dad, who is actually, like, he's a pretty fussy guy in terms of the things he likes and doesn't like. But the thing I remember him loving about James Bond growing up was Sheriff J.W. Pepper, who is a very controversial character in the eye of some hardcore Bond fans. That gives you, like, the idea of what Bond was like in my household. A lot of love for the Roger Moore era, a lot of love for Sheriff J.W. Pepper and his borderline racist comments.
Yeah.
That's my dad's Scottish sense of humour. And I think that meant that, like, up until sort of, like, post sort of, like, I'd say around sometime, but probably between Quantum and Skyfall, when I became an adult, and I was like, start thinking about these films slightly differently, I kind of just, it wasn't that I didn't care, it was just, like, they were all just good. They were all just Bond films. Like, there were better ones and there were worse ones, but...
Yeah.
And...
You see, I don't think I'd have that much of an opinion if I didn't enjoy Casino Royale so much. Because it's almost like Casino Royale came out and was like, here's a new direction for Bond, right? And whenever you do that, you're kind of asking your audience, like, hey, they're almost holding out their hand saying, like, take my hand. It'll be okay. Trust me. And I did, right? And I liked what they, I picked up what they were putting down, Jamie.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And then it's like, a more grounded Bond, less reliance on gadgets. And, the gags were still there, the jokes were still there, but they weren't like goofy shit. Right?
Yeah.
And then like, I think they tried to continue it with Quantum of Solace, but Quantum of Solace was just like properly dull.
Yeah, it was a non-starter, yeah.
Yeah, and then they just kind of started reading back on that and started saying like, hey, what about if we fucking go back to Roger Moore and fucking all that shit?
I don't think it ever quite got to that point. I think the thing I can say about Bond is that, like, I think a lot of them have just been products of their time, which is why, like, you go back to certainly, like, the latter day Connery and the Roger Moore era, there was, like, a certain, like, campiness to it, which is why, like, the edge started to increase with Dalton in the late 80s, which is why all the Brosnan films, like, lots of people love Goldeneye, but if you go back and watch Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough, they are just 90s era action movies at heart.
I got a lot of love for World Is Not Enough, though.
Bro, Tomorrow Never Dies and The World's Not Enough aren't that bad if you watch them as 90s action films.
Yeah. Just done, what was that, the last one you
did? Die Another Day.
Oh, what a fucking dumpster fire.
That's a stinker. Like, yeah. But I think what happened, like, you talk about, okay, like, what does Bond look like in the 21st century? You saw what happened to just, like, every other fucking franchise, whether it had a comic book origin or otherwise.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's gritty now.
Shit gets dark, shit gets real, and getting dark for Bond means there has to be stakes. And for there to be stakes, that means there has to be, something for him to gain and something for him to lose. And that's where you start to get, love interests that last more than a film, and villains that last more than a film, and family elements, and, his origin story and all that kind of stuff. Did they handle all of that stuff particularly tactfully? At times, no. Neither of us, we watched Spectre together. Neither of us liked it. Was not a fan. But I think for the most part, they succeeded in modernizing Bond in a way that felt more befitting of the era that Bond is currently residing in.
Yeah.
And I think that Daniel Craig did
agree with that.
I think that Daniel Craig did a good job of riding that train, given how much things changed from Casino Royale to get all the way through to No Time to Die. But at the same time, now is a good time to leave it. And part of me is kind of glad that No Time to Die is what it is. And I'm glad that we're honest and talking about the fact that, like, Craig's contract is over. We're openly talking about casting. We're openly talking about finding the next Bond. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next. My only thought about what they do next, I'm not particularly interested in maybe it's Tom Hardy, maybe it's that guy from Game of Thrones, maybe it's that guy from Bridget. I don't really care. My only hope is that come up with the idea before you cast the actor. You know?
Yeah.
Because
I think that's fair.
So much of that casting, whether it's fucking let's fucking boil it down to even some of the core elements. Is it male or female? Are they black, white, or something else entirely? Young or old? Grizzled or suave or sophisticated or fast talking or a man if you like. So much of that stuff is informed by the actor, but I would rather have the idea for the film there first, and then you find the actor that fits that role.
I think that's a very smart
Get
take.
Bond where you need it to be for the fucking 2030s, as crazy as that is to say out loud, and then cast. Don't go the other way around and have to retrofit it.
Yeah, I'm on board with that way of thinking. Actually, that makes a lot of sense to me. Don't say, oh, Bond is a woman now, so you have to create a story where woman Bond does woman Bond things. More it's like he's a spy. The person is a spy, and they're doing spy shit.
Do you have any ideas, like either specific casting ideas or just ideas for maybe sort of almost genre ideas or thematic ideas for things that Bond can go into that maybe it hasn't fully explored yet? It still has to be big budget action because that's the name of the game. That's how they make their money back. But
yeah, I think there's a few things. Like, one of the things that I want to see happen, I don't want to say because it's probably going to be a spoiler for people who've watched or haven't watched No Time to Die.
Okay.
So I'm not going to mention that, but I think what I'd like is a return, like much like Casino Royale, like less of a reliance on gadgets and kind of like some level of plausibility. Don't give me a fucking laser in a watch and shit like that. Like, I want to see like real world spy gadget shit, and I want to see more espionage stuff, like more infiltration. I don't know.
No,
it's sounding more like I want a Jason Bourne film.
No, my frame of reference was even worse. It was even worse because I was thinking one of the least action-packed spy films of all time, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
I fell asleep in that movie.
Oh well, maybe that's why it wouldn't work. But that is about like a mole infiltrating, an agency, and that would be an interesting. I don't think they've ever. They've kind of flirted with those ideas before. There have been bad people within MI6, and there have been rogue double O's before.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of like treading familiar ground. But I think more a case of it's hard, man, because the stuff that I kind of want them to do, they have tried in a way, but they haven't done it correctly. Like if I'm saying I don't want the villain to be like, if we take Die Another Day, I don't want the villain to be some bald Asian dude with diamonds that are slowly going through his face,
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude. Like, come on. Like, we don't need to have every villain be the Jaws prototype, right? Or the henchman be the Jaws prototype. Like, but then you get like, if you think of Quantum of Solace and the fucking bad dude there, was his name fucking Bob Green or some shit.
It literally was,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like, well, this is boring.
He was trying to steal all the water, wasn't he? Or something stupid like that.
Something like that. I don't know. It was fucking bizarre. I don't know. Like, I think there are certain tick boxes you can do. You could say, like, fast cars, attractive people of the opposite sex to James Bond, or the same sex. I don't fucking know. Wherever you want to take it. Good architecture, smart suits, fucking lots of guns. I'd like a less reliance on fucking gadgets, like I said. I don't know, like...
Hey, here's an idea.
It keeps me up at night, Jamie. It's making me sweat right now. You put me on this thing now.
You don't need to worry about it, Chris, because I've actually come up with it all myself.
Yeah, let's hear it.
You bring back Pierce Brosnan. You use deep fake technology to digitally de-age him,
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, but
you
there's a
sim-
multiverse, and
no.
Dalton comes back as well.
Oh, well, actually, do you know what? James Bond multiverse would be kind of funny. What I was going to say is you bring in Willem Dafoe, who is still at the top of his game, and just do an adaptation of the video game Everything or Nothing, but as a movie.
But you see,
Dude.
having like Willem Dafoe or Steve Buscemi as like bad dudes in Bond is fucking perfect, right? Because they're just odd-looking dudes.
Yeah, but then that sometimes works better on paper than in practice. Like, I think you remove the idea of Robert Carlyle playing a crazy guy who's got a bullet slowly heading towards his brain out of the world's not enough, and it becomes the coolest sounding idea I've ever heard. But it's like in that film, he's not really the villain in the end, but like, it's not super memorable.
Yeah,
or like, what's the name of I always forget the actor's name, but the bad guy in Tomorrow Never Dies is just an old English dude. What's that actor's name? He's in loads of stuff. He's in Brazil and Two Popes and
I can't remember. But yeah,
someone's
or like
shouting at their phone right now.
Gustav Graves.
Gustav Graves, it sounds like some Russian general, but was just a ginger English guy.
Yeah. All right. What about this? Who's going to direct the next one? Is it going to be Nolan, or is it going to be Denis Villeneuve?
Interesting. I will just say Jonathan Pryce was the name. I couldn't remember.
Jonathan Pryce. Yeah.
Do you know what? Denis Villeneuve, I think like he has shown himself. Well, actually, I haven't watched Dune yet, and Dune will be a very interesting example of it. But I think he's got like this weird kind of flexibility that he demonstrated specifically with Blade Runner 2049 of saying, I've got the tact and the ability to come into a world and a universe that already exists and work with characters that have been established by other people and make it all make sense. Yeah. I think he is probably, of the two names you just mentioned, the one better served to make a sequel or like make another film in a universe that already exists. Which isn't to say that Nolan couldn't do it, but I'd almost feel like I would say give it to Christopher Nolan if you gave it to him on the context of, hey, Christopher Nolan, you're going to direct James Bond films. How many do you want to do? Like, how many do you have ideas for? Do you have is it a one-off, or do you want to do a trilogy like what you did with Batman? Who do you want to be your Bond for those films? Make those films, and then it's a clean cut afterwards. Like, give Nolan his own film or give Nolan his own trilogy. Because, like, Nolan, for me, whether it works is kind of like, it varies from film to film at the moment. But he's more about, like, the big ideas.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think if he's got one for Bond, let him do it. It's kind of like, it'll be the same with, like, when Tarantino was in talks to do a Star Trek film, or whatever the fuck that was. It's kind of like the kind of thing, like, don't let Tarantino do the third Star Trek film in the fucking Chris Pine universe or whatever it was. But at the same time, if Tarantino has a separate Star Trek film he wants to do, talk to him. Like, find out what that is.
Let him do it. Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, Danny Boyle was at one point involved in No Time to Die early stages, and then apparently there were creative differences, and I think they kind of walked back some of the more crazy shit that he was going to do, and I think he was even at one point working on it with the Trainspotting guy, that author. I forget. Right. I might have made that up, but like that sounds kooky. I wouldn't have minded seeing like what the full on like unflinching version of that would have been.
Yeah, you see, this is the thing. I think as much as you say like what you'd like to see from a new Bond film, it's also saying like what you'd like the director to bring to it, and you say stuff like that. Like if you think like, I'm going to throw it out here, let's say Sam Raimi to bring in some horror elements to Bond, like that's something that would like seriously interest me.
There are a lot of none of these would ever happen, but we're in a cool point right now where there are a lot of people like, what does an Edgar Wright James Bond film look like? What does a David Fincher James Bond film look like? What does a Wes Anderson James, like, you can pluck out no, but seriously, you can pluck out names and be like, what the fuck does that look like? Do you want to see it? Like, kinda?
Yeah, totally. Oh, amazing. All right, I think there you go. That basically like a fucking, it wasn't really a spoiler cast, but we've talked enough about Bond probably for the next year or so. So there we go. I hope that made sense to people. And by people, I mean patrons, because that was the worst segue in the world.
I mean, patrons are people too, Chris. And patrons
Hey,
never
they're
let
not.
anyone tell you otherwise.
They're not people. They are legends. They are gods among men.
I stand
And in
corrected.
fact, I'm going to name a few because what these people have done is they've deemed it worthy of opening up their wallets to support the Super Show to allow us to continue doing what we do, which is talk a lot of shit and put it in a wrapper that says, hey, maybe it's about gaming. Kind of. And I am, of course, talking about Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, Jesper Camdal Nielsen, Leo Merger, Magic Grits, Mindful Pig, Nathan Piers, part of the 0.24%, if you know, you know, Pastors Guild, Scary Omen, Starfall Kid, Zach Cream, and Jamie, the big boys are here. I'm talking about Brett Z, Doppler, Geometric Potter, Hacksaw Book Reed, Manuel Caribbean Puppy Guerrero, and, of course, you know, everybody's favorite, Peaswad.
Yeah.
Would you say Caribbean or Caribbean?
I would say Caribbean. Because I think that's how we say it in this country. Like, we don't say... Johnny Depp wasn't in Pirates of the Caribbean. Or maybe he was to some people, but he wasn't to me. That wasn't the film that I bought tickets to.
Wow. Can you imagine if they were different films? Interesting.
Well, Pirates of the Caribbean and... Pirates of the Caribbean was the Triple X spin-off.
Oh, I see.
Some great scenes.
Yeah. Jack Swallow.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you know what? Let's roll with it. I don't know why the male is doing the swallow. I don't know what kind of a film you're making. It's slightly different to the one that I was making. But, yeah, okay.
Hey, listen, it's the year 2021. You got to cater to all tastes, buddy.
You do, yeah, no. You're clearly catering to your own, and I love to see that. A director who puts his own desires first.
Well, there we go. Well, Jamie, if we are a gaming podcast, then goodness gracious, we've probably spoken more about James Bond than actual gaming, so we got to get it back onto the gaming track, okay?
Good idea.
Tell me what you've been playing, buddy.
I'm glad you asked. So I've actually been spending a lot of time this week with James Bond 007 Nightfire for the Nintendo GameCube.
Yeah, what about Bloodstone?
Do you know what, actually? I believe that our good friend Robin of Just Interesting was actually streaming Bloodstone over on Twitch this past week.
And I wanted to tell him that he's playing the wrong one because he should be playing Nightfire.
Well, there's lots of good... I'm going to say something controversial. There's lots of good James Bond games that have been released over the years. Bloodstone would be remembered as one of the better ones had it come out at a time where more people had an appetite to play James Bond games.
That's fair.
Like, had Bloodstone come out instead of From Russia with Love, I think people would be far more hot on Bloodstone. But yeah, I didn't catch it live, but I did watch the VOD, and I was like, oh yeah, Bloodstone, I remember this. The game they snuck out. Shame, though, because I didn't actually play that or any James Bond game this week. I was just trying to make a joke.
Wow. That's why people come to us for jokes.
For the jokes. Do you know what's less of a joke? How much I'm struggling to get to grips with Crysis Remastered. 'Cause
you were so hot on it last week.
I know I was positive about it last week, but I think if you go back, it was in the early stages of playing through the first Crysis in its remastered
which you
state.
said you hadn't played before.
Right, and you know how maybe in terms of visuals and performance there was perhaps something a little bit lacking, but that I was intrigued and encouraged to get to grips with it further because it's sort of slightly more open-ended design got lost as the series went on, and I wanted to experience that. It turns out I am wrestling with it far more than I thought I would, and I just felt like I needed to...
What are you on now? Still the first one?
Still the first one. And I just felt like I needed to come back this week and kind of clarify that actually I think, with hindsight, some elements of that game have not aged particularly well. Partially because of how many series would go on to take those elements and use them for themselves. You know, in far more, not just better, but saying it how it is, far more modern ways. Even ironically, Far Cry. That was a new Far Cry just now. Like, if you want to talk about open-ended game design and approaching bases or outposts filled with enemies and approaching how you want and scouting shit out, there's something about Crysis' approach to that feels as old as it is, which is not surprising at all. But when you combine that with the fact that I think the controls are a little bit iffy, very much a game made for the PC first, and everything else was an afterthought to the tune of years. It's been tough. it's got strange, like the AI is a little bit off. The difficulty spikes that result from the AI being a little bit off are kind of frustrating at times. And I wanted to say that it's been more of a wrestling match than I thought it would be, getting to grips with it.
Yeah.
But
what do you think? Oh, there's a but. Okay.
there's a but, and I don't know if this is actually, this probably is going to move slightly away from your question. I apologize if so. We can loop back around. The but is that the new release that we were actually talking about last week wasn't just Crysis Remastered, it was the Crysis Remastered trilogy. And of course, Crysis 2 and 3 have now been remastered for, well, I say all platforms. You can play it on a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, and it's not native, but it boosts up the resolution and the frame rate. Yeah. And to remind myself, because I'd played Crysis 2 and 3 before, if this was an exclusively Crysis 1 situation, or if this was just something I'd forgotten about Crysis in general, I downloaded, installed, and booted up Crysis 2, and proceeded to play the first 30 minutes of Crysis 2. And that is why we arrive at the reason I'm still wrestling with Crysis 1, because I really liked it. And it looked surprisingly good, like for a game that is now a decade old, and played surprisingly well. And I was like, damn, like, I kind of want to play this game. And I know some people, like for you, Chris, with Crysis 3 specifically, they didn't like it as it changed and shifted as it moved through the series. Yeah. But I gave myself that taster of Crysis 2, and I was like, I kind of want to play through all three of these now, and then get the definitive version of them in my head forever moving forward.
So how far are you in Crysis 1 then?
So this is the other thing I don't know, because I've only played about a handful of hours of it in terms of raw progress. Yeah. Like if you look up how much of actually, if you put my playthrough side by side with someone who was like speed running it, I'm probably like 2 or 3 hours in. But okay. I am getting mixed messages over how long that game is, because when you go on How Long to Beat, which I presumed was a pretty, I'd say a reliable site, and I'm going to fact check it live. Well, yeah, it's not been wildly off for anything I've ever seen before. How Long to Beat claims that the main story of Crysis takes 10 hours, and if you want to do extra stuff, it goes up to 12 and a half, and if you want to do everything in the game, it goes up to 13 and a half. Fairly reasonable. If you go on YouTube now and try and find a full playthrough of the first Crysis game, most of them are like in the 4 to 5 hour region. That's a huge discrepancy between the YouTube playthroughs and How Long to Beat. And also like that How Long to Beat, that's an average, that they polled 659 people to get an average time of 10 hours, 17 minutes.
Well, it's 659 Alex Joneses, clearly, so.
But still, even Jonesy doesn't take 10 hours to finish a 5-hour game, does he? So the answer is, Chris, I don't fucking know. I'm either halfway through or a quarter, basically, to answer your question.
I love that. And yeah, okay. I'd be really interested to know your thoughts on returning to Crysis 3.
Yeah, I already know kind of the way I remember Crysis 3, and it's kind of what you touched on when you talked about it last week, is that it was them trying to reconcile some of what they'd lost in the transition from 1 to 2, but in a way that still worked on what were then pretty, weak consoles relative to what the PC scene was like at the time. And what that meant was exactly what you talked about. Corridor, open area, corridor, open area, corridor, open area, where the open areas were there to try and remind people of just how open the first one was.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Hey, but you get a reflex bow.
You get a bow, and as we know, bows are cool. Bows are the ultimate stealth weapon. So we'll see. That's what I want to see in the new James Bond. Bows. What about suits though? Like, what about like a Crysis style exosuit in the next James Bond?
What about James Bond is a guns expert, and he goes to a guy called a sommelier, and he gets a bulletproof suit tailored, and he stays at a hotel called the Continental.
And then M kicks him out of MI6 and then starts texting loads of people saying, hey, just so you know, James Bond is excommunicado from MI6, and can you everyone go and kill him, please? And James Bond has to go out into the middle of the desert where he left the bad guy from Quantum of Solace and chop his hand off to get forgiveness. And also, Halle Berry returns, reprising her role from Die Another Day.
No, reprising a role from Swordfish, and she just gets her tits out for another big payday.
Yeah, James Bond has to do some hacking, and he needs some support.
He's getting a blowjob while he's. Oh God, can you imagine the mix of genres? Ah,
Yeah.
Anyway,
I can, weirdly enough. I think we just accidentally created another porn parody. I'm not gonna lie.
I like it. It's almost like a Venn diagram of all those films, and they weirdly kind of fit together.
Yeah, we can make it work. We can get Hugh Jackman in there somewhere. But maybe.
All right. Yeah. So Crysis trilogy. Anything else?
I was going to say that I have finished Kenna Bridge of Spirits because I'm continuing to try and do clean up and get things off my plate, Chris. And that game is good. I've got some, perhaps to be expected, I've got some reservations about it now that I finished it that I perhaps didn't have when I came to it after a couple of hours.
Yeah.
But I think as like a debut, I think what we said at the time, right? As a debut game for that studio, they did a really good job. And one of the things that I wasn't sure about at first, but that did grow on me, was some of the narrative hooks the game had. Because I wasn't completely enamored by the voice acting or the writing in what I would describe as the game's first arc. And you realise that actually it uses a similar structure for what are essentially 3 distinct arcs. And I thought the second and third were much stronger in terms of some of the, not necessarily even the writing, but just the storytelling and the visual storytelling especially.
I guess that's something that they need to kind of learn, right? Because it's if you take like, hey, let's make content on YouTube, it's like all your important stuff needs to be at the beginning, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think that if they learn the right lessons from Kenna, they could be set up to make a phenomenal kind of like second game. But I just wanted to say that I very much enjoyed Kenna. I think that's a top 10er for me.
Wow.
Like it's like a low top 10. It's like that's like a 9 on the top 10.
Yeah. Would you want the next game to be Kenna 2 or something else from the studio?
Damn, good question. I think there's room for a Kenna 2. That's not a spoiler per se. Well, actually, okay, I don't want to spoil anything. There is room for a Kenna 2, given Kenna and the role she plays within that universe. But without going in too deep into spoilers, they would have to think of other elements as ways to support that melee combat system, where essentially like a lot of the powers and abilities that Kenna gets over the course of that game won't be as relevant or as readily available to her in a sequel, so to speak. So they'd have to think of new solutions for that stuff that could be cool. But then again, if they want to do something entirely different like that, that's fine as well.
Yeah, I heard that studio, Ember Labs, they're working on the new James Bond Bloodstone 2.
There we go. I'm so glad. I can't wait to see how James Bond uses the rot to get rid of weird fungus. That's exactly what I always wanted. Can I ask you a question before you talk about what you played this week? It might actually tie into what you have or have not played this week. I mentioned like Kenna with regards to potentially being in a end of year top 10. And obviously, we're now in late October. A lot of big games have come out. Not much left to come out. People are starting to share their early things on top 10s. Do you get depressed every time you read one of those? Because I do. I think I've played so much. I'm like, oh, I didn't play Metroid Dread. And I didn't play that Death's Door. And I didn't play, what have... And I'm like, oh, man, I somehow didn't play all the best games. I thought I played games all year and I didn't play any of the good ones, apparently.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard because, on my list is literally only one game, it's Dota 2, because I finished watching the International. OG got kicked out on the day that our fucking podcast went out, so
yes,
egg on my face. But well done to Team Spirit, true underdog story.
We like them. Underdog stories, that is, not necessarily Team Spirit.
Yeah. No, Team Spirit are okay. They did get congratulated by Putin, so...
that's like a good thing and a bad thing. I will say, I thought of you because I watched the clip of them winning, but the clip was cut in such a way where I couldn't really tell who won. The only thing I was going to comment on, and one thing I really like, is that the act of typing in GG when you're essentially acknowledging that you've lost continues all the way up to like this multi-million-dollar match, like the pinnacle of the game, like the biggest match in esports, and you're still just like, yeah, GG, I lost.
It gets even better. It gets even better than that, Jamie. Okay, because in Dota 2, there's no concede button.
Right.
So you just have to play out the match, right? And like even if all 5 people on your team say, yes, we want to just give up, you can feed, and you could just sit back in your base and let them kind of steamroll you, but you can never just end the game.
Right.
Except in professional matches, where if a team member types in GG, then you forfeit the match. So they've hard coded it in.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of risky
cool.
as well. Like, if it only takes 1 GG to forfeit
I
a match.
think it might be like 2 or 3 need to say GG, and then it like activates. But yeah, it's an interesting one. But my point is this: with games as a service, and you kind of, there's always something that these companies try to release. Like, there's always new content. So it's like, it's not that you're playing old games per se, but you're playing like the new content. So like, for instance, now I'm getting fucking sucked off and sucked back into Apex with all of their teasing of their new stuff, like a new map on a tropical island, and Ash from Titanfall 2. Like, fucking yes please, that's gonna suck me right back in. But it's like, that's not a game that I can say is going to be my game of the year, because just
no, totally,
by the nature of it can't be. You talk about similar things with okay, I don't play Warzone anymore, but Warzone getting all the kind of like Halloween skins and shit. Like,
yeah,
do I want to play Donnie Darko? Yes, I do.
100%. And also, Warzone's going to have an entirely new map for the first time ever in like less than a month's time.
Yeah, that's right. So, but that's like, those are big things if that's the kind of game that you play, and that will take away from the time that you play other games. And I feel like that's kind of what's happened to me. And if I think about games that stand out for me that I played this year, it's like there's not many, because like brand new stuff, okay, because I don't have a PlayStation. I've been going back to old games, maybe games that I missed. So for instance, like I've been having a really good time with Hades, but Hades wasn't this year.
No, I know one game you played that was new this year that you liked.
Yes, Psychonauts 2, and I need to go back to it and finish it, but that's in the running for my game of the year so far. But I want to play Metroid Dread. I just haven't been able to afford it.
No.
I think of a game that I played that I really enjoyed was Chivalry 2. But I can't say that it's my game like, it's not a game of the year, but it's a solid multiplayer jump in, jump off kind of thing.
That's the thing.
It's just kind of like it's been such a weird year for me, and it's a weird week for me as well, because I obviously focused on watching the international, and that ended on the weekend. But then I've just been so busy with work that I only had one evening to try and play, and I played some Dota 2 just to kind of get back into it. I haven't played in like 2 months, maybe more. I played 2 games, got absolutely demolished in both of them. And it's
that sounds like you. Were you feeding again, Chris?
Thanks.
Were the Russians getting angry?
No, I wasn't feeding. It's a team game.
Well,
so
I heard different. There's a Russian man who seems convinced that you were feeding.
Yeah.
Yeah. He reported you to Gabe.
Fake news, buddy. Go write it on your Truth Society app or whatever Trump's new app is called.
Apparently that, well, no, let's not get sidetracked by that, but yeah.
But yeah. The other thing that I try and do every week, obviously, is stream, and I didn't find the time to stream this week for various reasons. And I would say, so time of recording, it's Thursday night, and I would say that, I would say that I would stream on the day that this goes up, but I am actually very busy. I'm meeting you and one Alex Jones for chicken wings, and
Believe it or not.
Maybe I should stream that. Just do it. Let's do it. Just chatting. Would you guys be up for it?
God, would I be up for a live? I think potentially. I'm trying to figure out how awkward I would get, like eating on camera as a unique prospect. Exactly.
Yeah, mukbang, dude.
Okay, yeah, that's the territory now. Do you know what? It'd be cool being a professional mukbanger. Maybe tomorrow's where it starts. I don't know. It's your stream. It's your call.
Well, you know what, Jamie? Tomorrow never dies, so...
It does.
Bring it back
actually,
to James Bond.
tomorrow
All
dies
roads
when you
lead back
die.
to James Bond.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think you talk about like busyness and streaming and stuff like that. I think one of the things that has exemplified that for me, for all of us over the last couple of weeks, is if you had told me that by I think it's over a week post launch that I would not have had a single session of Back for Blood with you guys, having played an alpha and 2 betas. I would not believe you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Like the kind of the alphas and the betas where it's like, oh yeah, it's limited stuff and you can only do limited things and it's going to be buggy. It's like, yeah, would I jump in it?
Yeah.
It's quite Alex Jones. And then like the full game comes out and it's just like, sorry guys, don't have time right now, but maybe next time. It's mad to me. It is mad to me. Like my plan to stream this week was to have some form of played that with either you or Jonesy or both of you.
But Steph and I have been running into this conundrum where, like, sometimes we're available and no one else is, and like sometimes we can fill using patrons. We did play some Back for Blood with Peaswad, for example. But like there was also a moment the other day where we were both online. We didn't know what to play. No one else was around. We couldn't see anyone on Discord who we knew would be there to play a certain game. So we just started playing Stardew Valley in co-op, and Steph and I just played across 2 nights. Just played like 5 hours of Stardew Valley.
Decent,
it's like,
man. Yeah.
But it's frustrating because of what we're talking about. Like, I should be finishing Aliens Fireteam Elite once and for all because I bought that godforsaken game on the promise of that co-op action, or playing more Back for Blood, which I've played about an hour to an hour and a half of since it came out, or anything like that, and I just can't make any progress. I'm
just gonna. The other thing is I've been wanting to get it into Valorant.
Oh wow! Okay,
it's like haven't had time to do that. Let's see what else.
See,
Loop Hero came out this year. That was pretty good.
Do you want the best games that came out, the quote unquote best games that came out this year that I don't think any of us played?
Because Death's Door,
Death's
Metroid Dread,
Chicory. None of us played. That got very good reviews. Chicory, yeah, that's like the little cartoony guy who runs around with a big paintbrush and like paints the world in. It's almost like was it Okami? If Okami was like a weird like indie game with like a dialogue system and stuff like that.
Yeah. There was that one that was a Skyrim mod. Like
that's coming to Game Pass. Next week. That's like another time loop thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yes, it is. But you say, oh, it's coming to Game Pass. So Back for Blood, and we didn't fucking manage.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, so Back for Blood and Aliens Fireteam Elite, and this isn't me shaming, but like I haven't played them because I don't want to play them on my own.
Yeah,
like that. That's the when it's stuff that's like single player, like Kana was. Like I'll just finish it eventually.
Yeah, but you need to get onto Psychonauts, dude.
So yeah, the problem with Psychonauts was that I convinced myself I needed to play the first one. And I never wanted to play the first one.
Even though you promised me that you would.
Yeah. I haven't let go of that promise. I've got this idea in my head, ever the optimist.
I will say it's more important for me that you play Psychonauts 2 than Psychonauts 1, even though Psychonauts 1 is a quality.
I just want to have that. I want to know what I think of that game, if that makes sense. Like, I don't like having games like that I've never even touched. And it's like, well, if I've got it and it's ostensibly free because it's part of a service I'm already paying for, and also it's the prequel to a game I do want to play and have as much potential to enjoy as anyone else, I kind of want to do it right. But I think I do what a lot of people do, which is I believe that there's some large chunk of time that I'm going to come into in the near future where I'm going to get lots of gaming done, and that time never really comes.
Never happens, man,
But yeah, and then I always think, like Christmas you can take time off, but then I also end up getting a lot of games at Christmas because that's all I ever ask my family for when they ask me what I want. But we'll see. I don't want to sound like a broken record.
Man, I'm dying for Metroid Dread, honestly.
Yeah, Metroid Dread is one I'm keen to play, but I'll see what happens see if I'm won over by it when I play it. Yeah. I don't know how I feel.
But I don't know if there's anything else coming out this year that I'm kind of like,
What? There's a couple of things for me. Like, I want to see how that Guardians of the Galaxy game reviews.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've already pre-ordered Call of Duty Vanguard, so like
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna play that campaign and that multiplayer.
Oh, Age of
I'm gonna
Empires
miss.
4.
Age of Empires is a big one. That's another lucky Game Pass. And then Forza Horizon. There's already been some talk amongst my F1 pals that Forza Horizon is going to be our new weekly racing game. And then
Hopefully I could join in on that because
absolutely.
I don't know if I can find the time. I just remembered I did play another game this week.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
Yeah.
What is it?
The Riftbreaker.
The Riftbreaker. Why have I never heard of that?
Because it's
Is
like
it on
an
Game
indie-
Pass?
It's on Games Pass, yeah.
Okay.
It's
What
it's
the
a
hell
game
is
that-
this? This looks like some fucking RTS with mechs.
It's an RTS, but you don't build your own units. You just have the one mech, and it
Weird.
kind of plays on this riff where you're on a planet and like, did you ever play They Are Billions?
No, but I remember it.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like you build your resources, but then you're on a hostile planet, and then a bunch of like thousands of fucking units come after you, and you just kind of
Yeah. What
It's
inspired this decision?
it's a weird one. There was it was like a Steam summer festival or whatever it was, maybe even not even a summer festival, but I think the first time where they like, hey, we're gonna have this festival where we're gonna release a whole bunch of these demos. And that game had a demo on it, but then I missed out on it. But I was really interested and intrigued in it. And then I tried to get a key from the developer. They never sent me one. So like, okay, fuck you. But then it came to Game Pass, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna jump into it. And
Fair enough.
I think the game tries to be, well, not tries to be. I think it overly complicates itself unnecessarily. And so I
Okay.
fell off it very quickly. I didn't even like. I finished the tutorial and I was like, you know what? That's all I. That's the fill I need from this game. To be honest,
That's the thing
Yeah.
with Game Pass, right? Is like
that's why it's great. That's why I fucking love it.
it's great for us, horrible for developers.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
you know, those first, not even half an hour, that first 10, 20 minutes can be like super make or break.
yeah. But like
Yeah,
other games that
interesting.
I've missed out on that I'm interested in, Deathloop.
Yeah.
Forgot about this one, Resident Evil Village.
That's one, like, I have had that moment a couple of times where I'm like, would the boys be pissed if I just played this? And so I've held off.
Well, the thing is, if we don't do a kind of like a special stream in or around Halloween, if we don't do that, then fucking go for it.
What, Halloween
Like,
is in this time next week?
Pretty much. No, but do you know what I mean? Like, let's say
Yes,
in 2 weeks' time, if we haven't said we're gonna play our fucking,
It's
then
it's
then
on my
fair game.
it's on my Christmas list. Like if we haven't played it by the end of December, I'm getting it.
Yeah, so then it's fair game, right?
Do you know what else I completely forgot about, and I do actually want to give a really fair shot.
Yeah.
Fucking Halo. One of the biggest releases of the year. Who'd have
forgot.
thought?
It's funny because even today I was thinking about it, thinking about how mad it was that it was meant to come out like at the end of last year, and it's almost the end of this year. It's like,
I know.
what's happening?
And we
with this
still
game?
haven't seen that campaign.
I think there's a PC showcase coming up in the next couple of days.
Yeah,
isn't
there's a couple of things. There's like a Razer thing that some Halo people were kind of like tweeting about, and there's also an anniversary stream Xbox that are having that they confirmed there'll be no new games at, but some people are saying, hey, might be a good opportunity to show us what this campaign looks like because we haven't seen it for a year and a half.
Yeah. All right, I'm just looking at a couple of other things. Disco Elysium on the Switch, so I could finally play it. Let's see.
Can
what
I say?
else?
No, it sounds lame because neither of them actually kind of quote unquote came out this year. But Disco Elysium and Mass Effect might actually be my 1 and 2 at the moment for games of the year.
Fair enough, man. Yeah. A game I'm actually quite keen on.
Go on.
In a way, Mario Party Superstars.
Don't, Chris. If you're going to do anything, play Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. Don't do fucking Mario Party Superstars.
No, because I want to play with you guys.
Guess what? By you guys, you basically mean Jonesy, because I'm not fucking playing it.
and you know Jonesy's not playing it.
Jonesy is kind of simultaneously playing everything and nothing. Like he was telling us earlier, he told us earlier today. Actually, no, I'm not going to call it. I'm not going to do a podcast call out because that's not fair. Because people can be busy and that's how lives work. But let's just say, Jonesy, I hope you're enjoying Ghost of Tsushima.
Battlefield 2042. You know, it's hard.
Yeah,
isn't it?
That's one thing where I'm glad that beta came out, and I'm like, I feel less bad about not spending all that money on that game. Like, kind of, I know I'm not going to love it.
Life is Strange True Colors?
Wished I played it. Came out at an awkward time, kind of in between, you know, when everyone was death looping and caning, and Life is Strange kind of snuck out and got decent reviews, but not like world shattering.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, you know, like, and that's pretty much it for like. I don't know.
So we're almost there. It's just that there's a couple that are going to be some people's like game of the year, like Metroid Dread, that we maybe need to.
All right, like for instance, Peaswad, you could say, you know, he'd probably really like Battlefield.
Yes, and that's fine. I just like it's I don't know if you have this, but sometimes there are years where there is no consensus game of the year for a lot of the you know the populace and the industry as well, and you end up falling back on something that you liked. It just didn't really feel like a game of the year. And I remember one of the last times I had it was I think 2019, where so 2018 for those of you who can't remember was a big fight between it was Red Dead Redemption 2, it was God of War, and like you had Spider-Man in the mix as well. Like Red Dead Redemption 2 and God of War feel like Game of the Year caliber games, and those two fighting it out was appropriate. 2019 was kind of like Resident Evil 2 was really good, but it didn't feel like one. Do you know what I mean?
I don't even remember what I chose for 2019.
Fucking exactly. And there have been other years like it as well. I remember one of them was I think it was It was either 2014 or 2015, where I think my de facto game of the year ended up being Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. So that's a solid game, but it's also like a lot of other things that came out that year kind of missed the mark.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a bummer. It's a bummer. And it's not that anything missed the mark this year, it's just like, again, whether it's Deathloop or Ratchet and Clank or what have you, like a lot of games that could have blown me away just sort of didn't. Yeah. They were very, very good, but nothing has swept me off my feet this year.
Yeah, man.
Anyway,
it's a fucking strange one. It's a strange one, and like
it is a strange
looking at the current slate, I just don't know what my game of the year would be. Just being honest, like probably just going to be Psychonauts, or if I really kind of vibe with Metroid Dread, if I manage to play it before the year is out.
I mean, Metroid Dread and Psychonauts 2 are two games that are being mentioned by a lot of other people as like game of the year. So it's like, you know, that.
But I want to play Death's Door, and obviously, like, I love Back for Blood, the limited stuff I've played on it. But that's not that game's not a game of the year material.
Yeah, that's a fascinating one. I guess is this where we do the YouTuber thing this time because I'm actually curious and ask people who are listening what their game of the years are. Because I'm actually curious
let us know in the comments down below.
Hopefully they make me feel better about myself. The answers, that is.
Well, I'll tell you one game that's definitely not my game of the year, Jamie.
What's that?
Is Far Cry 6.
Okay.
It's leading on to a bit of a segue.
No, I know what your segue is already. That's why I'm laughing.
All right. And the reason is because it's the latest entry in a long-running series that has not improved enough on its predecessors to be worthy, in my opinion.
Right.
All right. Much like potentially what could happen if these next rumors are to be believed. Because apparently, confirmed rumors that after almost a decade away, Splinter Cell, the holy grail for me of Ubisoft games, could be making a comeback. So, who knows? Apparently, Ubisoft have greenlit the first mainline Splinter Cell game in 8 years, according to Tom Henderson and VGC. These guys are they're either fucking finger on the pulse or fucking crack in the fucking the heroin in the needle. I don't fucking know which one it is. It's either inspired or insane.
Are you talking about VGC or Ubisoft?
Both?
Both, yeah. I was going to say, yeah. I think you're right. There's a bit of both. There's some heroin in there for sure. Like I feel like I've just been juiced up.
Hell yeah, juiced up. Like, if anyone's been following the show, even from like fucking ATG days, you know that Splinter Cell is very much a holy grail for me. I didn't like the last handful of games, to be fair, but like that, it's one of those things where the initial games in that series will always mean that you fucking love that series, regardless of what the latter ones are like. And yeah, it's funny, right? So according to the sources, the title has been put into production as a means of winning back fans who are frustrated with recent efforts in the mobile and VR spaces, and probably almost free to play kind of spaces.
Yeah.
But there's an interesting one, Jamie. Okay, because we got a looking at Instagram,
Yes.
got a message from Rob, a Rob, not Rob we know, just
Oh, okay. Was it okay? A mysterious Rob.
a mysterious Rob. Okay, who we've been chatting. Okay.
Oh my God! Does your wife know
right.
about Rob?
Oh, me and Rob. Hey.
I think I saw a few pictures in there.
Oh, it's hush hush, baby. But he was saying, like, he sent me the link, and obviously, don't worry, guys, we're on the pulse with these things. We always kind of know the news, eventually. But he sent it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, could it really be happening?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've seen the rumors. It most certainly could be happening. There's been rumors floating around for a very long time." But the point that I said to him is, I don't know if I want 2021 or 2022 Ubisoft to touch Splinter Cell.
Interesting. Yeah.
Which is mad because I've been fucking begging for it. But it's almost like if you want something done, you want it done right. If you've been like waiting for it,
Yeah. I get you. And I guess I'm slightly torn on that because I feel like 2021 Ubisoft is in a very strange place where there's almost two sides to the Ubisoft coin right now. One side is that they're being extremely receptive to things. They are delaying things very openly. They are going back to the drawing board very publicly. They're taking as long as they need to take to get things to where they need to get to. Whether that's fucking what's the pirate game called? Skull and Bones. Or whether that was, the road to Rainbow Six Extraction, or whether that's what we talked about last week with Ghost Recon Frontline. There is an element of Ubisoft that's right now is like, right, fans' voices matter, and we're actually going to do stuff. Yeah. The issue they're having is that the ideas that they are presenting to fans first and foremost, that fans then feed back on, are kind of shit lately. Like Far Cry 6, by most accounts, probably is fundamentally too much of a Far Cry game. Like they had mishits with things like Hyperscape. We talked about Ghost Recon Frontline last week. There are problems. X-Defiant, yeah. Of course, speaking about Ghost Recon, like there's the element, the elephant in the room is that the last mainline Ghost Recon was also very badly fumbled. And like the more positive notes tend to be more of a whimper than a shout, whether that's Immortals Phoenix Rising or the early impressions of something like Riders Republic. They're in a weird spot, and I could totally see why that would make you slightly reserved about reintroducing Splinter Cell at this time.
Yeah, I don't know, like I've been on record before saying that, like, even in years where Ubisoft weren't performing well, I was like, I root for them, because even though they're this like massive multinational company run by billionaires, it's almost like me thinking, for whatever reason, that like they're the scrappy underdogs.
Right. Yeah. They like that. That's why they all get out on stage at the end of every E3 thing and like stand together. They all stand behind Eve and like, look, we're one big happy French family. It's like, no, you're a massive multi-billion corporation with studios in every country on planet Earth, it seems.
Yeah, especially the poor Romanians.
God.
But it's just like, okay, look, some positive things have been said, okay? Where if I'm worried about like Ubisoft in 2021 and 2022 with what they've been releasing, obviously games are in production for a lot longer than that. So really, if you have an issue with Ubisoft in this year or last year or the year coming up, really what you're talking about is you have an issue with stuff that was started development like 3-4 years ago,
Very true.
right? And what they're saying is that it's in the early phases of production, according to the confirmed rumors, and there is a small chance that it could be announced next year. And last year, Eve himself said that the series needed to evolve before they were willing to let it make a comeback. So these are all positive kind of spins on it.
Yes,
But
I agree.
But I just don't. I just don't know. I just don't know.
No.
Dude.
And like it's possible totally that kind of like all the games we're talking about, even games like Ghost Recon Frontline and so on and so forth, yet maybe they are the end of an era. And we've often talked about the kind of like the duality between the free to play side of things and the premium side of things, and how they could be being handled different ways. There have obviously been lots of rumors in the last 6 months or so about how Assassin's Creed is opening up new doors to what some kind of like metaverse shit.
God, yeah.
Lots of rumors. I think Jason Schreier reported at one point that the next Far Cry is looking to, or is being planned to be something very different. We've obviously got games like Skull and Bones and Beyond Good and Evil 2 that I genuinely believe will look very different the next time we see them compared to what they looked like last time.
I think Beyond Good and Evil 2 is a vaporware at this stage.
I don't think it's vaporware, but I think they basically say, look, it was ambitious, it was cool, great, go for it. But now we're going to bring it back under control. We're going to give it to a team led by someone who can actually kind of make this a fucking viable product. And if that means like making it not what it was and cutting out some of the more ambitious elements, then we're going to do it. And we're just going to make a fucking video game. I think the same with Skull and Bones. And then you've also got like Avatar in the mix as well. Like maybe those mysterious elements are like the next fleet of fascinating premium Ubisoft titles.
Maybe.
But it's all speculation, right? We just don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know what we do know, Jamie?
What do we know?
Well, a little bit more about Warner Brothers games like Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Because Warner
Brothers... A little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, fucking hell. Honestly, I would have thought we would have known more, but there we go. That's the world we live in. The much hyped about DC Fandome has taken place. It was there. You were there. Apparently, you still got your ticket stubs.
I was there. I was at the Fandome. I bought my tickets to the Fandome. I got my tickets to the Fandome checked and torn, and I kept my stubs for my tickets to the Fandome. And I'm glad to say that, Chris, I attended the Fandome. I met The Rock. I met Robert Pattinson. I met
Ezra Miller. How weird was that? When he came on stage,
I didn't watch it. I was out. Well, I was out living my life, and catching up on what I presumed was going to be a whole host of information and extended gameplays and look at all these trailers and we're going to tell you everything you need to know about these products you've already known about for the last year. But that didn't happen.
No, we just got trailers.
Yeah.
Oh, fine. Like trailers are good.
And they were good. They were good, especially for the Suicide Squad. They were good trailers.
They were good trailers. I'm just having a bit of a brain.
You're speechless.
Yeah, no. Even Gotham Knights, dude. Like with the Court of Owls shit and all of that. Like it's very, very cool. But it's a weird position. Okay, you look at Gotham Knights announced last year, along with Suicide Squad. Mm-hmm. But Gotham Knights showed off gameplay last year.
It did, yep. And that was over a year ago, because the Fandome was in August last year. It wasn't as this late last year. I want to say it was end of summer.
Yeah, okay, fine. But like...
No, but I'm saying, like, it's even worse, right? Like, over a year.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, it's just kind of... Like, even with Black Adam, where it's like, oh, Black Adam's coming, baby. Oh. Yeah, here's just people talking about Black Adam.
Oh, so the weird thing about Black Adam is there was footage, but it was exclusively on The Rock's Twitter account. And you don't see his face. You see, like, his chin under a hood.
Yeah, no, I saw that. It's just like, okay. But then there was another weird thing, and it makes me think that, like, the pandemic really fucking hit them on this one. Because when Ezra Miller came out to kind of, like, talk about The Flash, and he's like, oh, we know you're excited. We don't have a trailer for you. We don't even have a teaser, but we got some stuff put together. And I was like, oh, okay, fine, fair enough. You're tempering my expectations. And then what do? They play a fucking teaser.
Yes. For a film that I presume at one point in pre-production was called The Flash, Batman's in this one.
Yeah.
Because that's what that whole fucking teaser was. Like, hey,
Yeah.
remember Michael Keaton? Turns out he said yes. He's still got a price.
But yeah, like stuff like the Flash, Black Adam, the Batman. Oh, the Batman. I wish Jonesy was here because he would shit all over it. But
Oh,
I thought I thought that
already
was sick.
He put out a tweet after the trailer came out saying that he thought
I
it was
read
shit.
it, yeah.
And I looked at that tweet and said, this motherfucker's had that in his drafts for like weeks. He didn't care what that trailer was. He hated it since this time last year, and nothing was going to change.
I thought it was a good trailer. I was surprised by how much it feels like a continuation of a Nolan-esque kind of thing.
Right, interesting, yeah.
But then again, I don't know what I was expecting to be.
I think the
To
only
be
thing
perfectly fair, like
the only thing that strikes me is kind of like perhaps slightly different to what Nolan was going for, and in a sense like different even to like Nolan, but also like Snyder's Batman, and very different to Schumacher's Batman. It's like with Clooney and then Bale and then Affleck, there was always this like they were older, they were a bit more sophisticated. There was this idea of you could see their version of Bruce Wayne kind of like being a functional member of society and being a popular member of society.
And a playboy and this, that, the other.
Yeah.
Whereas this dude's an emo loner.
He's basically just emo. Like, his hair kind of flops down in front of his face, and it's like, he wears makeup around his eyes, and you're like,
So what you're saying is, it's Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 3.
Yes.
But by way of Batman. I got you.
That is exactly what I'm saying. Chris, why don't you write the press releases for this shit? Fuck the fandom.
I fucking should.
I'm excited for that movie. I will watch that movie. I will play... Can I just... One note on Suicide Squad quickly? I really want to know more about how that's structured in terms of... Is that a 4-player co-op game? Do you know what I mean?
I thought it was, though. Didn't they... from last year,
maybe they said something and I missed it. But like... Okay, and if it's a 4-player co-op game, what happens if I'm a 1-player? You know?
Yeah.
As someone who is currently waiting to finish Back for Blood over the course of the next, I presume, 6 to 7 years, what's the deal with Suicide Squad? That's all I need to know.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy, isn't it? But like, yeah, it's just something more would be cool. Even if, like, this is the fucking frustrating thing, right? You say even if they release a gameplay trailer this year, but then you also have to think to yourself, but if they do that, why didn't they just put it on their marquee event, which is the fucking fandom?
I don't have a good answer for that.
No.
I don't have a good answer to that. Like, I mean, fucking the Gotham Knights is still ended that trailer just saying 2022. It got moved to 2022 7 months ago.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Surely they can put a date on it. Like, it was meant to be out.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, oh, Cyberpunk, everyone's scared. Don't put dates on things if you don't have one yet. I get it.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, what we do know is some interesting info is that the Suicide Squad trailer was in engine and is confirmed to be within the kind of Arkham-verse, as it were.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool. But then also...
Which is... I was just going to say, I find it funny that almost a decade on, Rocksteady are still doing everything in their power to remind everyone they did not make Arkham Origins.
Yeah, fair enough. But when it came to Gotham Knights, obviously Court of Owls, very cool. Kind of the Penguin. What I found interesting is that kind of like the way that they're dealing with the Penguin was very much how it seemed they're dealing with the Penguin in the Batman film with
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell. They seem like the same kind of like take on that character, which is interesting.
Also interesting, the Penguin was in the Suicide Squad trailer as well. And he was the same as he was in the Arkhamverse with the end of the broken bit of a bottle as his eyepiece. Except he's just there for comic relief as they pretend his shot collar isn't working and electrocute him to death. Which is kind of funny. Fair
enough. I mean, that's Suicide Squad for you, right? But with Gotham Knights, no mention of the Belfry, Jamie. I think I saw it in some of the shots in the trailer. But...
Right. Is it like kind of like an Easter egg? Kind of like, do we need an IGN trailer review? Like,
here's things you might have missed from the Gotham Knights trailer.
And then a thumbnail with a big red arrow pointing to the Belfry.
Oh, man. And
what culture, if you're hiring? Here we are. Come and get us.
If you're hiring, we have. Jesus. Well, I don't even know how to fucking segue this. I'm so tired, Jamie. Listen, 10 months after release, Cyberpunk is still getting delayed. Can you believe it?
Yes. Actually, I can very much believe it. Without going into too much detail, the idea of CD Projekt Red and overly long processes, sounds about right.
Sounds about right. Par for the course, yeah. Because the next gen update for Cyberpunk, which is meant to be obviously PS5 and Xbox Series S/S versions, they've been pushed to Q1 of 2022. So again, not a hard date on 2022, but just sometime.
Give yourself a 3-month window. You minimise your chances of missing it again.
It's just kind of like, it's mad, the whole Cyberpunk thing. I don't know.
It's hard to know what is left to be said about it.
Do you know what it feels like? Sorry to interrupt. Do you know what it feels like? And you'll know this from Hades, obviously. It's like Sisyphus, right? Where he pushes the boulder up the hill and then it rolled it. No, Sisyphus was the dude strung up, and every day ravens would pick at his liver and eat it, and then it would grow back. But then there was another dude.
I thought Sisyphus was when it stings when you pee.
That too.
I don't know.
But the other dude who
I think the boulder guy is in Hades, like he's in one of the in-between rooms.
Yeah, so he pushes the boulder up to the top of the hill and then it falls back down. I think it might be the same one. I think he pushes up the hill.
Guy who pushes boulder, Google's our friend. Guy who pushes boulder uphill is Sisyphus. You got it right.
Told ya, bitches.
Got to back yourself.
It's almost like the fucking all the Polish dudes working on Cyberpunk are Sisyphus, and they are forever doomed to just work on Cyberpunk and keep on pushing the Cyberpunk boulder up, and then it not working, and then it has to roll back down the hill.
Yeah, but you know what question I have to ask you now, Chris?
Yeah.
Does the next gen patch for Cyberpunk 2077 come out in Q1 2022?
I don't care.
yeah, do you know that's probably the most poignant answer that could be given?
Which is the saddest fucking thing for the like. Yeah,
Jonesy might be the only person on planet Earth waiting. I can't wait till enough time has passed. Maybe now is that time. We can go back to pre-Cyberpunk podcasts and listen to Jonesy and us argue about like when the next gen patch is going to be and when DLC is going to come out and all that kind of stuff.
Oh man, yeah, that would actually be maybe on the anniversary of the release. We should just have a podcast special, maybe a Patreon exclusive.
Maybe
talking about it. That would be really interesting. But yeah, man, it's just kind of crazy. Like obviously they still got like all those free DLCs and the paid DLC to come out, but
yes,
you can't imagine them pushing that shit out.
Well,
like
so
until
in the statement they made about this, they did say that the first expansion for the game is still being worked on, so they're trying to remind us it exists. But yeah, I don't know how many people are on the hook for that at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's such a fucking weird one. And speaking of weird, I'd be keen on getting your take on this. Okay, the Uncharted movie trailer dropped.
It certainly did,
and it looked Uncharted-y. It's got Tom Holland in it.
Yeah,
and and known racist Mark Wahlberg.
Weirdly enough, actually, they must have. I saw an early cut for this trailer. He beats a Vietnamese man with a stick and calls him racial slurs. I think they must have cut it after after the trailer got leaked, and they went back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I think they had a little bit of negative press on that one, so they just went back to the drawing board.
Maybe do you know what? Maybe they're replacing it with the other scene where he beats up the black guy and keeps calling him the N-word.
Jesus Christ.
Known racist. Hey, Chris, don't put your head in your hat. This is the life and times of one Mark Wahlberg. I, for one, can't wait till they make a biopic about Mark Wahlberg and make sure to include all the extremely racist shit that he used to do.
You know what the weird thing is? I'm pretty sure that the person that they'll get to play Mark Wahlberg is Mark Wahlberg himself. He'll be like, yeah, I'll play myself.
Yeah, exactly. And there'll be a bit where, like, Mark, you used to have facial hair at this point in your life. He's like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing the facial hair.
Yeah, forget it.
Forget about it.
Okay, well, can I just focus on my Wahlburgers, please?
Yeah, that's the happy ending of the film. That's the post-credit scene, is the opening of the first Wahlburgers. And the start of the MCU, the Mark Cinematic Universe.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
The MMCU, the Marky Mark Cinematic.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm all
but
about
yeah,
the FBCU. Just the Funky Bunch Cinematic Universe. I don't care about Mark. I
yeah,
just want the
fuck
bunch.
Mark. Just the bunch, yeah. I like it.
Oh,
But yeah,
Jesus.
the Uncharted movie trailer came out and it gave us our first look at a young Nathan Drake meeting a presumably slightly younger Sully without a mustache. So, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
What did you think of this trailer?
God,
As a self-proclaimed fan of the Uncharted
okay.
series.
As a fan of the Uncharted series, I thought the trailer was okay,
Yeah.
but a bit underwhelming. I thought the fact that they included sort of set pieces and moments from across the series, some people have got caught up on that. I think that was an inevitable. Whether this is being pitched as a long-term series or not, like they were always going to use this as a highlight reel of the Uncharted games because that's what fucking movies are for. My main problem with it, and we'll get onto like the kind of the casting and the suitability of Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg, I guess, in a bit, because I want to kind of bring up something Jonesy mentioned on Twitter. The main thing,
what you've written here, just the way you've written is great, but we'll get there.
Okay. The main thing that happened to me, basically, Chris, I'll put it this way. I saw 2 trailers today. One was for Uncharted, starring Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
And the other was for Michael Bay's upcoming film Ambulance, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. And both trailers went to, change in expression slightly, in one eye and out the other. I was like, that was just a bunch of action movie guff, and I don't really know what I saw. Other than at one point going, oh, that's the thing from Uncharted 3, where he kind of falls out the back of the plane. Except the keying and the CG looks absolutely god-awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it looked strange. I thought it looked strange. I thought it looked clunky, and I did not get Uncharted vibes from it. I thought this is Spider-Man without the suit talking to Mark Wahlberg in a generic action movie.
Yeah.
That could probably still be fun, but
yeah. Well, that as someone with no attachment to the series, that's kind of what it seemed like to me. It's like, yeah, it's a popcorn film, and I think maybe it'll be one of the more successful video game adaptation films, but that's not, it seems to me like it'll be a decent film, but would it be a good Uncharted film is what I just don't know.
I'm leaning towards that. I think if you're going to go as far as to hire Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg, 2 actors who are not just not appropriate for the roles they're playing based on sort of like age and image and sort of like aura, but also are Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg instantly recognizable as being other people entirely, you have to go above and beyond to convince people that they are Nathan Drake and Sully. And they didn't even try, let alone go above and beyond. Like, other than the fact... Like, I'm sorry, but, like, Nathan Drake... Maybe some people might disagree. People who don't like Uncharted might disagree. But Nathan Drake isn't just as simple as an American accent and who wisecracks. Like, that's why Nathan Drake is not the same as Indiana Jones, for example.
Yeah.
Because, like, wisecracking and hunting for treasure doesn't make you the same person. But I don't see how any of that identity... Which is a shame, because Uncharted 4 was really good at digging a little bit deeper into that identity. And that was the last game that they had to look at.
Which they are bringing elements of it, mentioning his brother Sam. I kind of felt like that in the trailer. They were like, oh, it's Sam. Oh, it's your brother. Oh, this will get you closer to your brother.
Yeah, they say his name about 3 times. So
yeah,
it's
just like, I get it, dude. The other thing that was really fucking odd for me about the trailer, and this is me being me, Jamie, The bit that you spoke about with the bad compositing on the back of the aeroplane. Yeah. I did notice that bad compositing, but it didn't bother me as much as the unplausibility in a movie of jumping off of a falling piece of cargo into a rapidly fast-moving cargo aeroplane.
Yes. Like, the momentum stuff is, like, all off.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I get it. It's a... Not only is it a film, which this stuff kind of happens in films, but it's also a video game-based film. So it's like you kind of have to suspend your disbelief there. But for some reason, it just kind of... there's that meme of that, like, Spanish soap opera woman and all the fucking math equations are going on put through her head. That was me watching that portion of the trailer, thinking that's impossible.
Yeah.
Everything else, totally plausible, but that's impossible.
There's one other thing that I wanted to pick out, and which almost adds to or helps add to the implausibility that you're discussing. Because again, we're very good. I've watched enough. What are they called? Corridor Crew to know that like
Corridor Digital.
we're very good at noticing when like physics are off, but also like we're all just, whether you're editors or not, we're getting better at noticing when like whether it's like keying or masking and compositing and stuff like that. That's all off. For anyone that wants to see the picture that I'm about to send Chris, you can go on to Twitter, or I guess just any other browser, and type in Tati Gabrielle, who's the name of this actress who's playing one of the villains. Uncharted.
T-A-T-I.
T-A-T-I, Gabrielle, Uncharted. When I type that in when I just searched that on Twitter, the first result is like an image of her and two henchmen getting off the back of the plane that presumably the aforementioned scene happens in, and it just looks wrong.
Yeah.
Like it's a screenshot from the trailer, and it just looks off. Like it just
Man.
It doesn't look like a film of that budget like should look like. They've just done a very poor job.
Man.
So yeah.
Hey, you know what?
That's frustrating.
Swinging it back to Spectre, because the opening shot of Spectre, it was that one long track.
Yes.
That also had fucking terrible compositing, and I just couldn't handle it. There's like a bad way to start off. And that was in the film. Sometimes you can say bad compositing in a trailer, you're like, well, the effects aren't finished. You know, they're still going to do multiple passes on like atmosphere and lighting and everything. But that was in the actual fucking film, and I was like, well, that's kind of taken me out already.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Like I think, I'm in two minds about it, because at the end of the day, like time and money are the things that determine visual effects quality to a certain extent. And they are both finite when it comes to making a film. I get that.
Yeah, but then again, you're talking about like the deep pockets of Sony.
That's the problem. When you're talking about Uncharted or a new James Bond or the new Matrix, like we were a few weeks ago, like just get it right, please. Like, yeah, I don't know. Bummer. And I can't wait to see how they play off the whole Mark Wahlberg getting a mustache thing as probably like a post-credits surprise moment. And
yeah, you're probably fucking right. Hey, but we'll know on February 18th, 2022. At least they're committed to a fucking date.
Yeah, do you know what? I can't wait to... I'm going to have like an old school like kid's birthday party. We're going to go to Pizza Hut. We're going to go and watch Uncharted. And then I'm going to get Elden Ring for my, as my main present.
I think I've lost you, Jamie. I'm trying very hard to kind of be like, oh, yeah.
No, you're doing a good totally. Enough job.
But I've lost you, mate.
Oh, I haven't lost you. That's
you're
so strange.
Dead to me. You're dead to me.
Oh, weird.
What is going on?
That's a bummer.
Good. There we go. Hold on. I heard something.
You probably just heard me.
I think you're back, baby.
I think I'm back too. Some people might say, Chris, that I never actually went.
That's
I could hear you the whole time, and I was replying to you. But yeah, what I was saying is, I'm gonna have February. I'm gonna have an old school birthday party. We're gonna go to Pizza Hut for lunch. We're gonna watch Uncharted in the cinema afterwards, and then someone's gonna get me Elden Ring as my main present, and I'm gonna have like an 8-year-old's birthday party in February. You're invited.
You know what? Oh yes. Yeah, but hold on. Is that prick Alex Jones gonna be there?
I kind of have to invite him. My mum says I have to.
Man. All right, fine.
It's because my mum's friends with his mum, and if he finds out he wasn't invited, you know.
Yeah,
because he went to my old school.
I'm joking. I obviously love Alex Jones.
Well,
the nut job, not the one that we do the podcast with.
Yeah.
February's gonna be it's gonna be an interesting one. I don't know, man. But yeah, tell us about Jonesy's hot take on this. Can I just say, following Jonesy's Twitter is very rewarding.
I agree with that statement.
And this is why. Go on, Jamie.
Well, so basically there was some obviously chatter around the Uncharted movie. I'm actually trying to find the tweet now so I can make sure I've got it completely right and do it justice in the conversation.
Right, yeah. Because it was very much around the casting and like you said, like how Tom Holland doesn't really suit Nathan Drake. And the interesting thing is there was that like a GQ interview like a handful of months ago where it was like, oh yeah, I did it wrong or I tried too hard or something. Like, people forget about that. Like, that was him basically saying, I did a terrible job in this movie.
I forgot about that. That was a weird interview. So this conversation started with our good friend Sam Richards stating very aptly that the trailer hasn't allayed his thoughts that the two central characters are fundamentally miscast.
Yeah.
And then our good friend Alex Jones, co-host of this very podcast, said, "Can't disagree. This is weird casting for sure. Who'd you go for if it was up to you? I'm going to go for left field, but say Liam Hemsworth and Kurt Russell." Which
Oh, man,
I think I said in our little podcast document, I just said Jonesy's picks and said he's wrong.
I love that. He's wrong. Plain and simple.
Do you know why he's wrong? Because he's almost got like the energies mixed up. Like, you need Kurt Russell energy for Nathan Drake and Hemsworth energy for Sully
and not only that, because I know for a fact that Jonesy doesn't know who Liam Hemsworth is.
Jonesy,
or rather, he doesn't know which Hemsworth Liam Hemsworth is.
Jonesy not only gets Liam and Chris Hemsworth mixed up constantly, but also like the fundamental problem I have with it is no matter which one he meant, they're both wrong for different reasons.
Yeah.
Like first of all, both of them are physically wrong, far more wrong than Tom Holland in terms of they're too big, they're too muscular, they're too imposing. That's not Nathan Drake's thing at all. And in that sense, Tom Holland's physique is a far better fit for Nathan Drake than either of the Hemsworth. But also the issue is that Liam Hemsworth, and let's just take Jonesy at his word whether he's confused or not, Liam Hemsworth has had the remarkable capability to build and sustain an entire career within Hollywood without ever showing an ounce of personality. Name one film, name one role where Liam Hemsworth has said or done or even just been anyone or anything interesting. And now you want to cast him as one of the most charismatic, swashbuckling, wisecracking characters in video game history. I
don't get it.
Jonesy pictured, like, Jonesy had Liam Hemsworth like headshots in his head and said, that's a young good looking guy.
No, Jonesy just looked in the room that he was in when he was writing the tweet at the poster of Liam Hemsworth on his wall, and he's just like, that guy.
Like, what was the last film Liam Hemsworth was even in?
I'd
have to look it up.
I think I've only ever seen him in like one of those fucking
he got lucky.
Mockingbird or whatever.
He got lucky to get cast in the Hunger Games, and that's the extent of his career. He was in one film last year and it was the word that I think Americans pronounce Arkansas rather than Arkansas.
Oh yeah, it's Arkansas. Yeah.
Which, to be fair, which was written and directed by Clark Duke, the guy who played the main character's friend in Kick-Ass, and the young guy in the Hot Tub Time Machine.
Weird.
Yeah, remember that like chubby guy with glasses? Yeah. Who's still only 30. He was also Clark Green in The Office.
He has a Steph vibe about him.
He does have a Steph vibe about him. Quite young, still only 36 years old. He wrote and directed a film last year that somehow had Liam Hemsworth, Michael Kenneth Williams, R.I.P., Vivica Fox, John Malkovich, and Vince Vaughn in it.
Oh, weird, man. I think Vince Vaughn would be a better Sully than Kurt Russell.
Do you know what? The Kurt Russell shout I don't mind too much, but like now we're getting further into just like Kurt Russell energy is not the same as Sully energy.
Yeah.
And also like again like he doesn't match. It's kind of like the Liam Hemsworth thing of like being in a better age bracket than Mark Wahlberg doesn't make him a better fit per se.
Yeah. Do you dare take a stab at who you would cast?
I don't really have. Well, I feel like I have to now because
I've got an idea for Sully, and it's a bit left field.
Go on.
You're probably going to tell me I'm wrong, and that's probably because I don't know the character all that well. All right, but and maybe not like this actor at his age now. Maybe a little bit younger. Maybe not. I don't know. What about Tom Hanks?
Oh, interesting.
Right, left field. You wouldn't have thought of it.
It is left field. Do you know what I'd say about Tom Hanks is he has far more versatility than Mark Wahlberg, and I think could get closer to a performance of like a Sully-like performance that would make sense. Yeah. But perhaps the issue would be
the physicality, right?
Yeah, and also just that like Tom Hanks is one of those guys that's quite hard to see as someone or something else.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what? Energy wise, again, this is something I saw on Twitter. I can't remember where. It might have even been in that thread that we were just talking about. But
Right,
a very good match for Sully Energy is Bryan Cranston, and he wouldn't have to play that much older. Like you literally, he like maybe a decade, if that. Like grey him up slightly, and he's got that energy. And then
that's not a bad shout.
It wouldn't work now because he's too old and he's played too many roles since, and he can be a controversial one nowadays. But genuinely, like kind of like if you had got to Chris Pratt before Guardians of the Galaxy and Jurassic World did, then Chris Pratt is Nathan Drake energy. Some people won't like that shout, but I do kind of believe that personally. But
for me, it's always going to be Nathan. For me, it's always going to be Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, you got to if you got him at the right age.
He's too old now, but
if you got him at the right age, again, he's got that. His energy for that is spot on.
But do you remember he did that like
short film, right?
Yeah,
and
it was quality. But even then, he was maybe a bit too past his prime.
But it still kind of worked. Like you still believed it.
It did.
Which is testament.
Because you're talking about energy, and that is the fucking Nathan Drake energy.
Exactly.
Never mind that he looks exactly the same.
Right? Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. It's a tough one. It's an unenviable task, especially when you're trying to make your money back on these things, right? Like, Nathan Fillion probably gets shot down by a producer before you can even get him in the room.
Yeah.
Not literally. I don't think anyone would shoot Nathan Fillion, but yeah.
Oh, hold on a second. He'd have to lose some weight.
Chris, I've got a lot on my hands at the moment. I'm a busy guy.
Brendan Fraser as Sully.
Oh, interesting. See, like the funny thing about Brendan Fraser is you go in sort of like obviously the Mummy is the frame of reference.
Yeah.
But like Brendan Fraser in The Mummy...
He was in The Mummy, he's probably more Nathan.
Exactly. I was literally going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if he was one of the people that was used as a frame of reference for the, like, conceptualization of Nathan Drake as a character.
Yeah.
Like, I think, where if you've got, like, fucking a mood board up in the wall at, like, Naughty Dog, like, you've got Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones, you've got Brendan Fraser's character from The Mummy. Those are the things you have on that mood board. Probably not Nicolas Cage in National Treasure, but maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah,
get a bit of Matthew McConaughey in Fool's Gold.
Honestly, yeah, like McConaughey kind of has a bit of. He's a bit too sexy. Like I think. Yeah. Nathan Drake's a tough one though. He's a tough one because he was a lot of things over the course of a lot of different games.
Yeah. You see, I think they should have cast Tommy Wiseau as Nathan.
Do you know what?
And Danny DeVito is Sully.
Oh my god! I would love that. I would genuinely love to see Danny DeVito as Sully. Like even just in playing it straight Uncharted, they were just like, do you know what, Danny DeVito. But that reminds me, like you talking about Tommy Wiseau and other characters he could play, other than henchman. Oh, it was Antonio Banderas. I was going to say, was there a villain in that trailer?
Yeah,
and it was Banderas.
There was a villain, and I hey, I'm all for the return of the Banderas.
That's fine. Yeah, it kind of looked like they were going for Uncharted 4 vibes, where like he's like a kind of like a slightly more sophisticated, kind of like above ground guy who is so interested in sort of treasures and antiques that he's willing to kind of go a bit fucking mental to get it.
Yeah.
As opposed to being like, I'm a crazy Russian dude, or I'm resurrecting Nazis, or something like that.
Although, like, fuck, it's funny, man. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. It's an interesting one.
Well, look, let me ask you this then, Chris. You get an advanced screening this time next week. You're going to go to an advanced screening of one of 3 films.
Embargo, dude.
Well, we're allowed to say the embargo date has passed where you can say it's happening, but you can't say what it was like.
Right, yeah.
But the issue is you've got a choice. You're either going to see Sonic 2, the Super Mario movie, or Uncharted next week at super advanced screening. What are you going to go and see?
Super Mario.
I think that's the right choice. Yeah, I know Jonesy's day one Sonic 2, but I think Mario's the right choice for now.
I mean, I've said it before. Like, I enjoyed Sonic, but I didn't mean to, but I did fall asleep in the cinema.
You see, yeah, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and Sonic. You've been sleeping through some bangers.
I've only ever slept through 3 movies in the cinema. So, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, Sonic, and God, this is gonna take me back. Fools Rush In.
Fools Rush In.
Yeah.
Is that like that Elvis Presley lyric?
It is, yeah.
Only
But the
fools
movie,
rush in.
The movie, how about this one? Matthew Perry and Salma Hayek
What? Okay. Wow.
as a romantic comedy. When did it come out? Like
It
96 maybe?
sucks that Matthew Perry didn't have more of like what
97.
more random movies like that. Like I know he had that little period there.
Just search Fools Rush In and have a look at the poster. Like, is that not like prime 1997
That is
romantic poster?
That is so like Matthew Perry is all of a sudden a leading man in romantic comedies.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So the interesting thing in this, I think, my friend Paul was living in Zimbabwe at the time, and he had come over to South Africa for a visit. So even though I want to say that like it was on a weekend, and I was at Scouts, and I was like, after Scouts we went to go see this movie together. For whatever reason, we're watching a romantic comedy or whatever, and I was just so tired. I just fell asleep.
Wow.
And there's my friend, like I hadn't seen in a while. He lives in another country, and I just fell asleep in a boring film.
Bad friend, Chris. Bad friend.
You know, another film that I, not in the cinema, but a movie that I have fallen asleep in. I don't know if you've ever gotten this, but sometimes there are movies that come out that you are really interested in, but
Yeah.
you can never watch the whole way through because you fall asleep or you get distracted.
Trying
And
to
so
think.
you would have seen the entire film, but not in one go, like in chunks and bits and pieces.
Yeah, kind of. Perhaps slightly more so when I was young.
Yeah. Well, this happened to me when I was young, and the movie was U571. I even had it on VHS, and I could never. I loved that movie. It's such a good film, but I could never watch the entire thing without falling asleep.
Interesting. Do you get
It's
it?
weird. Like sometimes you kind of think to yourself that like there's some kind of like cosmic energy with like if you think of like Control, right, where they're like objects of power and all this shit, where they emanate this like thing, and like that VHS just always had this power to put me to sleep.
Wow, that's kind of impressive.
Yeah.
The closest I can think to that is like when you almost like compartmentalize movies into your favorite sequences, and like maybe you really like the first half and not the second, and every time you watch it you're well excited, then you get to a point halfway through where you realize you've seen everything you like,
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh, okay, that's that for me. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's how a lot of people feel when they listen to this podcast. It's like, yeah, it was pretty good at the beginning, but now that I've got to the end, I probably regret my decision of
They
sticking
started
around.
talking about James Bond for 45 minutes, and I was just kind of like, yeah, do you know what? I'll just catch next week's.
Hey, you know what? I'm giving people what they want, because if it were up to me, it would be a 1 hour podcast. But we've broken the 2 hour barrier here, Jamie. So
We actually have. Congrats.
you know, I'm doing it for them. If they don't like it, then they've got to let me know in the comments down below. But I'm pretty sure what they're going to say is 3 hour podcasts, please, sir. May we have some more? I'd be like, yeah, all right, fine. Jamie, only thing that's left is a solid thank you to you for joining me.
No, thank you
but
for
then
hosting.
also a code word.
Damn. We can't go. I'll get us in trouble if we do. My head just went straight back to Mark Wahlberg, the known racist Mark. But then that's just like regurgitating an old joke at this point. What else did we say that was funny?
Nothing. It's been a pretty unfunny podcast.
What if we challenge people to come up with like XXX porn parody names for
the James Bond porn that we came up with.
Yeah, but like they can come up with porn parody names of the, like you have to make a porn parody of a James Bond film. So take any classic Bond title and try and porn parodyify it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just say James Jack Swallows.
Yeah. Do you know what my Bond parody would be? It's actually it's a little bit it's kind of like an intellectual kind of a 4D chess kind of thing. Like you have to think about it quite deeply for it to make sense. So, it's called the actual parody is called Octopussy, and you look at that and you're like, hang on a second, but that doesn't make sense. That's not a parody. That's the same name as the James Bond film. I presume when I put this VHS in my VHS player, I would just be greeted by the warm tones of Roger Moore, and it's just a fantastic James Bond flick. The reality is that the female lead in my version of Octopussy actually has 8 vaginas, and they just go down the lengths of her legs up to her knee. So she just has like at regular intervals, starting from a middle point, just has 8 vaginas.
And even better, she doesn't wear any shoes, and she doesn't actually walk. She just slides everywhere because it just dribbles down her ankles.
Yeah,
and lubricates.
It's like how slugs move. She's much the same, except she's lubricated by her 8 vaginas.
Good night.
Bye.
We can't do this anymore. We're gonna get deplatformed, Jamie.
Who by? Mark Wahlberg? Bring him on. I'll beat him with a stick.
Call him racial slurs.
Yeah, I'll call him a racial slur. You honky.
Wow.
See how you like
cracker?
it? Yeah, cracker.
Alrighty. And with that, thank you so much for, enduring us for these 2+ hours. We do appreciate it. And hey, you know what? Leave comments down below. And if you've gotten this far, you've got to leave at least 3 comments and reply to 2 comments of other people's comments, because that is now the tax for getting to the end of this podcast. And with that, thank you for listening, and thank you, Jamie, for joining me on this 2001 Space Odyssey. And with that, we'll see and hear and feel you next time.
Bye.